Service members are often part of two-income families, but spouses face the continual difficulty of establishing themselves when the service member gets relocated. Well, now the Army has scootched up its reimbursement policy for those spouses to, in the Army's words, promote career continuity and military readiness. Here with the details, Army Program Analyst Steve Yearwood. Mr. Yearwood, good to have you with us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, what's going on here? You are reimbursing spouses, but there's more to it than simply reimbursement. There's also other enhancements to help them with licensing and so on as they move from place to place.
That's correct. This policy change means quite a bit to military spouses. It allows military spouses to have their professional licenses and business costs reimbursed, which makes it easier for them to continue work in their chosen field or profession as a result of these frequently move. But more importantly, it promotes career continuity, financial stability, and professional fulfillment.
When someone moves, what has been the policy? Say they have a license for, I don't know, a real estate license, or it could be a cosmetician type of license. We're talking generally state licensing fees, that type of thing?
Yes, we are talking state licensing fees. So, for example, a military spouse may be a lawyer or a dentist and have to get a license renewed, recertified when they move to another state. Whatever fee they're paid, the Army will reimburse them up to $1,000 for that recertification of that license.
And was there no reimbursement before this, or did the reimbursement that was there get raised?
So in the FY18, National Defense Authorization Act, that's when the policy, or the law, I should say, came out that reimbursed spouses for $500. Then the following year, subsequently, it was increased to $1,000. And that stayed pretty much static until the FY23 NDAA, when they added business costs to the existing law. So this policy included both those changes for licensure reimbursement and also business costs.
So in other words, an individual could get as much as $2,000 in a relocation, $1,000 for the license and up to $1,000 for whatever costs are incurred.
That's correct. And that's the benefit of this policy, to help streamline the process for these military spouses so they understand the benefit that they will receive as a result of these frequent moves.
Do we have any sense of how often this happens in a year? I mean, relocations are tens of thousands. How many people do we know apply each year for reimbursement or relicensing fees?
Right. The data that we do have, and we've been tracking this initiative since the inception. So going back to 2019 when we published our policy as a result of the NDAA in 18. So since that inception, we have reimbursed military spouses just for licenses reimbursement. I will say in excess of 750 spouses have filed for claims.
So it's not a vast number, but I guess it really matters to those that do file for claims.
Yes, it does matter because, again, this reimbursement is taxable. So it becomes a tax. So, for example, if a military spouse filed for reimbursement of $500 reimbursement, that $500 will be taxed. And the soldier is the one that's filing on behalf of the military spouse.
All right, good to know. We're speaking with Steve Yearwood. He's an Army Program Analyst in the Directorate of Prevention, Resilience, and Readiness. And just a question on licensing. State license fees probably vary widely. And I imagine within a given number of professions, you mentioned dentist, for example, I imagine that's a much higher licensing fee than, say, someone that wants to do manicures. Do you have that sense of what each state costs for various things?
I don't have what each state costs. However, we do have resources that kind of leads spouses to the different resources. So if they're getting ready to move to a new state, they can actually go and see what those requirements are, because although there's a reimbursement fee, there may be some other requirements that may preclude them from obtaining that license, hence affecting the reimbursement fees. But again, those fees can be reimbursed even for the recertification, whatever the cost is, as long as it doesn't exceed the $1,000. So to your point, yes, we have several military spouses file in excess of $2,000 in some professions, but again, the reimbursement is the max is up to $1,000, and again, that $1,000 being taxed.
And are you aware of any states, for example, that maybe give a little extra boost, maybe if what the person is bringing to the state doesn't have an exact match with their requirements, they'll nevertheless grant it because the person is part of the military permanent change of a station. Do the states ever give a little bit of leniency to military member spouses?
Yes, and one of the key points I want to make here to this question is that we, the Army, works with the Defense State Liaison Office, whose primary function is to work with state legislators to help military spouses in regards to licensures and recognizing their licenses, expediting the process, limiting the number of paperwork. So that's what we do within the Army to work with the State Liaison Office to help guide that effort. And that's a continuous effort that the Defense State Liaison Office does, but identifying specifically what state requires or what they're doing, we don't have that information readily available, but it's something that we can definitely provide at a later time if necessary.
Yeah, you've got the Career One-Stop site that kind of guides them to that information, I guess.
Yes, we do have a page on our website, our Quality of Life webpage, specifically for spouse employment. And on that landing page, their spouses can see the resources and information on the process for filing a claim. Subsequently, the policy is there, and they can also review the policy. But again, any questions they have, they are directed to go to their installation employment readiness office. Most installation have one of those offices, and those individuals will be able to help and guide those spouses and navigate them through this process as well.
And we've been talking about an Army program. Do you have any collaboration or information sharing, say, with the Navy and the Air Force that probably have similar issues?
Yes. So I collaborate quite a bit with my service counterparts. And one of the things we did in regards to the policy, we actually did some collaboration to see how each service is primarily interpreting the law. So what we found is that, and Anthony can speak because of the Navy and the Air Force is the ones that we was engaged with quite a bit. Their policy was similar to what our policy were. So we all were consistent in our messaging and interpretation. But we do collaborate quite often with our services when it comes to the license reimbursement or business costs.
And before we let you go, I just wanted to ask you to comment on, something the Army said in the statement, and that this is not just about income, but also professional fulfillment, talent retention, and support of military readiness in the grand sense.
Yes. So Army spouses, as we know, supports the soldier, which is essential to ensuring their soldier success and continued service. And in return, the Army is committed to helping these military spouses achieve their goals. And this is a benefit, part of the Army's ongoing effort to improve the quality of life, financial stability, and our Army families. But last point is that when we talk about retention, it's also a key factor and a multiplier when we're talking about ensuring the spouses continue their job when they move from one location to another and not creating a financial gap, I should state, when it comes to a PCS move. So in summary, this policy enhances that ability for the continuity of spouses promoting their careers. It also provides that, like I mentioned earlier on, the professional fulfillment.
Steve Yearwood is an Army program analyst in the Directorate of Prevention, Resilience, and Readiness. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And we'll post this interview along with a link to more information at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Hear the Federal Drive on your schedule. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.